styles make fights, and Fabio Wardley against Daniel Dubois, it made one of the best fights, potentially heavyweight fights, I have ever seen in my life. I've been watching boxing for over 20 years, right? I've seen some fantastic bouts, and genuinely, just blew my mind. And I had an inkling this could be really good. And that's why I tried to watch with my mates, but none of them were on down for it. But it is what it is. Let's go before the fight, right? So look, Fabio Wardley has come into this fight, WBO world title holder, and he's come off some really impressive wins. He's undefeated coming into this fight. Daniel Dubois, he's really in the last year or so really found where he fits in this sort of world title level, because I think prior to that people were questioning him because, I mean, he had the loss obviously to Usyk, and he lost against Usyk again. But the thing is, you've got to remember that Usyk is a generational fighter. Like, he beats everyone in this generation. Like, you can't beat him. Like, he is like the Money Mayweather of the heavyweight division right now, okay? You're not going to beat him. But obviously there's a tier below that, which is still at world title level. And Daniel Dubois, after what he did to AJ, earned, that respect. Now, what I will say is, look, I'm not going to lie to you and say I've watched these people's, these guys' careers from early on. I haven't, but I'm an avid boxing fan, so I've watched it sort of in the last few fights, like when they've kind of been on the come up, and that's when I really take interest. Let's focus on Fabio Wardley first. So this guy, I've watched him for a few years now, and when I initially watched him, I was like, he comes across like really nice and stuff, and well-spoken, but he's got this, you can tell he's always thinking, and what that shows to me is that this guy's smart. He's got high IQ, and and he just always knows when to adjust. And you see that in the ring. He has high boxing IQ, compared to a lot of boxers. I'm not saying the highest, but one thing that I never saw from his initial appearance was the fact that this guy backs himself to the hills. He has probably the biggest heart I've ever seen in a fighter, potentially. Chisora comes to mind, to be honest. But really and truly, there's very few fighters that I've seen who literally back themselves to the hills 1,000 million %. And you see it in the way that, so on his come up, right? So when you're starting off, you face a lot of journeymen to build up your confidence and whatnot. And 95% of those people you face are never going to be on a world level, okay? And one of the main reasons is because in boxing, a lot of it, look, obviously a lot of it is physical, right? But it's mental. Usyk always says this, it's all in your mind, right? And I feel like Fabio Wardley in his mind is incredibly strong. This guy, so when boxers go into fights, there's always going to be, I don't care what anyone says, I feel like there's always going to be some sort of element of doubt, a little tiny bit. This guy doesn't, and you can tell by the way he punches. Every time he goes for that right hook, that over-the-top kind of right hook, he goes with it with 100% behind it. And he might not look the most powerful, but the reason why that is such a powerful shot is because he puts everything into it. Now, on the come up, when you're facing worse fighters, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be able to hit them with that shot, and that means that although he's put a lot of effort into it, he's going to get the reward because he's potentially going to stop people or hurt people at least. However, when you get to their sort of world title level, the people you're facing also have a very similar mentality to you in terms of, they're like, well, nah, we back ourselves 100%. And I feel as though in last night's fight, before I get into the fight, because I want us to talk about Daniel Dubois before that, I feel as though that's where he started to, because this Daniel Dubois, I think, is his toughest opponent he's faced to date. You started to see Wardley needs something else, because he's never been a defensive first fighter. He's always on the offense, and he's always looking for the killer shot, and he's got good technique. Not like the best I've ever seen, but very good technique. But it's his heart that wins. The only thing that is his downside, he does cut up a lot. He's got a great chin, but he cuts up a lot, and that was to his detriment last night. Now, Daniel Dubois, on the other hand, let's call a spade, right? He is dumb. He's generally dumb, bless him. but naturally gifted. Like, you can tell, like, he's in his prime years right now. Like, he's got the strength, he's got the power, and he's got the fitness to do really, really well in boxing. All he needs is a great coach to tell him exactly what to do, because he's like a little robot, basically. Like, you know, like an old robot where basically you just tell it what to do, program it, and it'll go do it. That's literally what he is. You could see him like, yeah, he's literally just a robot. That's what I see Danny Dubois as. Now, the only issue is like I said, a lot of boxing is to do with mental, right? And a lot of it is IQ at the top level. And I feel as though he lacks that, obviously, just in normal life. But in boxing, that's the reason why he's lost against Usyk twice, because Usyk is one of the smartest boxers I've probably ever seen, apart from Floyd, maybe. Last night, I don't really want to get into the fight, but what I'm trying to say is, like, he's not good at adjustments in the ring unless, like, the coach will tell him what to do. He's very good at, if you give it, like Mason Mount in football, I feel like you tell him what to do, he'll go do it to a decent degree. But nah, that's harsh on Mason Mount. But like, even though I hate Mason Mount, but no, he's like, you program him, tell him what to do, but once something changes in the ring, you need to tell him what to do again, because he's fucked. But yeah, look, last night's fight, let's get into it, man. So, ironically called Don't Blink. They always have these funny monikers in it for boxing, and within the first round, within the first few seconds, man, Dubois on the floor. And I don't think it was particularly short. I think he was a bit off balance, really. But look, Fabio Wardley still gets a knockdown. It's calm, it is what it is. And Fabio Wardley's really on the front foot now. And then in the third round, he takes the knee, Dubois does. So now Wardley's 2 knockdowns up on the scorecard. And you're thinking this can only really go one way. However, we have seen Dubois go, like, you know, been like knocked down before, and he comes back and wins fights. So that was always on the cards. And then, you know, you got into like the 5th and 6th round, and that's when Dubois caught him with the shot on the nose, which just cut up his nose. And that was, honestly, from then on, Wardley was fighting a losing battle. And that's when the heart of Wardley kind of kicked in. Like, in rounds 7, 8, 9, 10, like, you saw Wardley out. You could, like, he looked knackered, he looked fucked, disoriented, like everything. But this guy just kept going, which was, people were saying, oh, the corner should have called him out. But he was still throwing punches, which was mental. Like, my guy still had his guard up at times and was still literally throwing back. And he caught, I remember, I think it was in the 10th round, he literally caught, Dubois came forward, missed his shot, and he caught him with an uppercut. But I just think that, unfortunately, he was facing someone who is just a juggernaut in terms of strength and power. And when he caught him on his nose, that was almost like game over. And I think that Wardley, like, I don't know, he needs to really be maybe slightly, like I said, he's got IQ, but I think he can sharpen that IQ quite a lot in the ring. And I think that he could be a really, really good fighter. Like, I feel it's more like the Usyk mold rather than like an AJ mold, whereas Dubois is more the AJ mold, right? Just in terms of like brute force and whatnot. And look, I just think that Dubois, for instance, you saw his lack of boxing IQ in a way, because I think he could have knocked him out in the last 3-4 rounds, being real. And it's almost like he didn't really know what to do to knock him out, where I feel as though a lot of smarter boxers would have got him out of there. But honestly, it was an amazing fight to watch. I've never seen that much heart from someone before, I don't think, in a ring. And look, it's the first loss that he's taken, Wardley. I'm hoping there's a rematch, man. I'll be real. And it was, like, in terms of Wardley's career, so I actually went to school with Fraser Clark. So I used to be friends with Fraser back in school, and he's a really nice guy. And I remember when Fabio Wardley faced Fraser for the first time last year, I'll be real, that was an amazing fight as well. And I was surprised Fraser took it that far, and it was a draw. And then the second fight, I think you saw what I thought would happen in the first fight, when Fraser just got knocked the fuck out, bless him. But look, I think I'd love to see a rematch here. He got Joseph Parker out. You got to remember that as well. And I just think that there's a lot more to come from actually both these fighters. Well, with Dubois, I think it's hard to actually. Maybe I think Wardley a lot more to come. I think Dubois has kind of almost reached his ceiling, because I feel as though you can't really teach someone to get really like smarter when they're that dumb, being completely real with you. But honestly, genuinely one of the best fights I've probably ever seen. And I think even like I was thinking like who could they match up against in like sort of the boxing world, like for other world titles. So look, I think for instance, like I said, styles make matches, right? We saw what happened between AJ and Dubois. If Dubois went against Fury, what would happen? I think Fury would be quite wary of him, to be honest with you, because I think Fury is obviously a lot smarter. But I think Fury might be able to win that match, to be completely honest with you, because he's got a good chin as well. I think if Wardley fought Joshua, I think that would be quite an interesting fight to watch. I think Joshua might beat him. I think Wardley against Fury, that's quite a good matchup as well. I think just because I think it'll be very IQ based. Wardley against Usyk, I think Wardley is, in terms of style, very close to Usyk in terms of I think he's got potential to be super smart in the ring. And I'd love to see them train together. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I get that vibe. I just get this vibe. But honestly, if you didn't tune in, you missed out. And shout out to Riyadh Season. Since they've come on the scene a few years ago, man, they've been able to get fighters together and make these matches. But honestly, one for the ages. If you didn't watch it, go watch highlights today on YouTube and stuff, because honestly incredible fight. But remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm coming with daily videos. So see you tomorrow, where it'll probably be a football video, just rounding up the weekend's action. But yeah, until then, peace.